Welcome to Community Connections. I'm Linda Williamson, and today we're here talking with Jon. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Jon MacDonald. I was actually born in Espanola in 1946. It's a while back. And our family moved up here before there was a road through the region. So it was quite a new experience for us to grow up in the wilderness and carry on with family lifestyles. But we developed such a community feeling with Scriber, at least part of my family, because of relations and friends in Scriber, that Scriber became a second home, and then it became a primary home for me. So yeah, it's good to be here. Good to be back here.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your family history?
Depending on what part you want to know, my family itself came to Canada in the 1600s and slowly emigrated as work and things became available up into the region. As voyageurs, they were really heavily involved in the fur trade, and before there was a railroad, before there was a highway, before there was an airport, they paddled this entire region. As a matter of fact, my one relative, the Latteroots, we have it on record, they accompanied La Vérendrye through this region right to Lake of the Woods. This goes back quite a while. So our connection and family history, my dad was a trapper, and when they opened up the region, because we did have family at White River, Snowbank, we moved up here and he hired on the mill. But one of his main goals when he hired on the mill was to get a trap line. So that part of the family tradition carried on. And as a result, we as children grew up in this region, grew up with Scriber, and came to really love it.
Did you ever get married, and do you have any children?
Yes, I was married in 1970. In Toronto, and I have two children, one in Thunder Bay, his son Robert at the time, and my daughter lives in Winnipeg. I have one granddaughter who lives in Alberta and two great-grandsons from her. So my son is 49 and my daughter is 47, and they didn't move back to Scriber because I had taken them away from Scriber. But they're doing okay. And as modern things happen, and my first marriage did not work out, and so I became single, and that's when I really started doing a lot of fishing and hunting and things like that normal guys do. And I met a wonderful woman back in Scriber as time went on, and we hit it off so well. She's the love of my life, and I'm with her now for about 18 years now. We hit it off really well. We've done extensive traveling throughout the world, and then I've taken her into my part that I like of the fishing part and the camping part, as most Scriberites do. We live in a perfect situation here because we have it all when it comes to fishing. We've got speckled trout to the north, we've got pickerel to the east, and we've got lake trout to the west. So it's all's good.
That's great.
But Janet is the love of my life. She's just great.
Awesome. That's so nice.
Yes.
What did you do for fun as a child?
Well, the children at the time, when we were kids, you'd toboggan, you'd ice skate, you'd play hockey, you'd play baseball, tag, fight with your neighbors, the neighbors' kids, all the normal things that you have to remember. We didn't have TV. We did have a phone, though. We were coming on to mainstream. But yeah, we did a lot of things to keep ourselves amused and interested in things. We didn't need the intervention of our adults and computer games and stuff like that. And I think physically we were much more active as a result, and which was good for us because we all did the same thing. All those kids did the same thing. So we all got a good bit of exercise as we grew up, which was good.
Do you have any favorite memories of Scriber?
Favorite memories of Scriber? Yes, I do. I think they're personal. I came here and worked on the railroad. Lived with my sister, uh, Brenda Campbell and Bobby Campbell. They had a great family tradition of working on the railroad. So I came out here and hired on the railroad before I was legally old enough to work. But back then they were looking for people to work. So becoming involved with the town back then, don't forget I was still a teenager, but got involved through the hockey and stuff like that. And I think one of my favorite memories, if I have to zero in on one, there's probably dozens, was the Scriber North Stars, the junior hockey team that I played for. That was 54 years ago. Yeah, we had some good times and even made better friends because of that. We had a successful junior hockey team, and then of course the normal things like fishing and hunting are favorite. But I think probably along with the hockey, I think the family, the connection to Scriber through family. That was probably the most important one that we had. And because our family was quite large at the time, as most families were. So that was good. And one of the things that brought me back to Scriber was that very same thing, was family and memories and the people that live here. I've got a lot of friends here, although, gee, some of them got older.
Do you have any hobbies?
Hobbies, yes, I have lots of hobbies as such. If you can call fishing and hunting a hobby, even at my age. But my life's work right now is as a volunteer. I represent a Métis organization in the district, and I represent a Métis community locally in Scriber and Terrace Bay. So with the political side of that, I remain pretty busy. We have the tools now to keep us busy with computers, emails, Skype, and all those other things. I'm busy, quite busy. As a matter of fact, I would say on an average week, I'm on the computer at least 5 to 8 hours a week, doing those things and promoting what we are and what we like to do in the region. So I don't know if you'd call that a hobby, but I do call it a hobby because I'm a volunteer, and it's also a passion. It's something that's really good.
You mentioned volunteering. How important is that to the community and to yourself?
Well, volunteers for the community. I've been on more than one committee in Scriber since I've moved back, and as a volunteer, and volunteering to take part in things for the town like that is probably one of the main things that keeps the town going and keeps the people involved. When I came back, I served for a term on town council, which probably did myself more good than the town, because I learned a lot about the town, a lot about the people, and just how well knit the community was, which just reinforced my my feeling that I'd done the right thing by coming home.
Tell us about your jobs or your career that you had.
Well, the jobs and career that I had started in Terrace Bay, but then moved right away to Scriber as a railroad worker. I was a brakeman for many years, and that's when the crews were 5 on each train, with about a 40-car train as a big one. From there, I wanted a stationary job, so I was fortunate enough to receive an apprenticeship in the mill in Terrace Bay, which I completed, and that enabled me to become a tradesman in a pulp paper industry. And through that, moved to Fort Francis, and expanding town there, and a bigger company. And but then with an eye back here because I spent all my free time back here. And then as soon as I retired, of course, moved back here. So I've been involved in the pulp and paper industry for about probably 40 years, with the railroad for about 6 years. And I was also a policeman for 3 years
Oh,
in Terrace Bay. But because of being a policeman there, I spent a lot of time out of the detachment here at Scriber. So I got to know there, the good and bad in people as well. And I found out it was the small communities, a lot of things you could have intervention in them, and it was more personal, and I learned a lot about people through that job too.
that's great. Do you have an object to share with us?
I have to move to get it.
It's fine.
I had talked to you before about junior hockey. Well, this blazer is 54 years old.
Oh, wow.
Of course, it doesn't fit me anymore, but it did at the time. That's when I played hockey for the Scriber North Stars, and it's a treasure that I will never relinquish, and I hold on to dearly. Now, on top of that, I have some of the original programs from those days of playing hockey. There's the Scriber Juniors, the official program from 1965 to 66. It shows everybody that played on the team, their specs and stuff like that. And so again, that's a treasure that's one thing that's hands off, that's mine, and I keep it.
Oh, that's very nice.
Later on, and when I semi-retired, I took up fishing, and I guided during the summer months a little bit around. And I really enjoyed taking people out on the lake or lakes who didn't have the opportunity to do it themselves. There's a couple of pictures that are near and dear.
Oh my goodness, those are big fish.
Those are lake trout, and I specialize in fishing lake trout, and to this day continue to do that. So those are things that I like to do now, but of course it's winter now, so I have to wait a few months to get back out on the lake. So there's the winter things. It was the hockey and good memories. These are the summer things, the fishing, which still carries on. And my prize coat that my wife says it's time to go, and I keep saying, no, that's staying in the closet.
Very nice, thank you. Throughout the years, there's been many changes to technology and society. Is there something that's changed for you?
Well, I think there's been many changes. Because of my age, I've been fortunate enough to have been born at the best of times. And I think one of the biggest things that affected me as far as Scriber was concerned, growing up at least, was the advent of the diesel engine. At the time, there were probably 300 to 400 people working in Scriber for the railroad, and even more than that when they had the turntables operating from the old steam locomotives. And the big fear, from what we understood at the time, was the elimination of jobs. Technology changes the whole atmosphere of jobs and scares people. But over time, we do evolve with that as well. So the advent of the diesel was probably one of the biggest one. And of course, I keep looking back at my mother and thinking that she used to go to barn dances with coal oil lamps, and she watched them put a man on the moon. So you talk about changes. Mm-hmm. Along with the locomotives and that, I think that the invention of the computer and the extremely quick communications, not only through our region but through the world. I can be talking to somebody in Europe within a few seconds. Those have had huge impacts on all of us for many reasons. So those would be two, and probably I could sit here and talk about more.
Do you have any stories about Scriber that you remember happening or you heard of?
Yes. When I was growing up, the stories of the two murders north of town in the old mining area, the old mine that was up there, that intrigued me as a child. because of the fascination with those hideous things. As you well know, the young man that did it was hung in Thunder Bay Jail years after the crime was committed. That stayed with me for a long time, and yeah, that would probably be one thing that really did have an impact on my life. And Scriber seemed to be an old town compared to the young town of Terrace Bay. So Scriber had a lot more history. The Italian community, who, these people were great people, opening up this town, being a vibrant part of it, and having a lot of employment opportunities themselves. So the whole town keeps evolving and changing, and it evolves, and we keep carrying on. Most of us now, like myself, I'm retired. So, but that certainly doesn't change the fact that the aspect of living in town is still probably one of the better things in my life.
How important is the library to you and to the community?
The library to me is probably as important or more important than the other committees in town. I'm not saying that they rank less than the library, but the library is a learning center, it's an activity center, it's well run, and over time it continued to be well run. Whereas committees struggle, they get strong, they fall off. So the Scriber Library, without the Scriber Library, the town would probably die a bit. It's really important to have it here. I'm very proud of the library.
Well, thank you. How has COVID affected your life?
Well, it's made it a lot worse and a lot more interesting, but in some cases there's been spin-offs that allow me to attend meetings now from home. So COVID, I'm angry about COVID because I think it was something that could have been stopped a little earlier. I'm angry because there's so many people who have died from the disease itself, and I'm angry about leadership, both here in Canada and the States. However, I think we're on the right track now, but COVID has curtailed family events, public meetings, gatherings of all sorts, like the committees from town, like your recreation committee, those sorts of things, our nights out at the Legion. It's curtailed them, and so it hurt our standard of living, but not our desire to see this through so we can rejoin with friends and family. So it has really affected us.
I agree. How do you envision the future?
The future of Scriber, I really do believe it's going to become more of a retirement community. We're seeing in cases, people from Southern Ontario buying homes here because they're affordable. They can move up here and get away from the stress of the city, the heat of the summer, and it's the cost of living probably isn't much different than in the south, but the cost of housing is much better here. So I think the future for Scriber, without additional industry, we will continue to carry on as more and more of a retirement community. But on the same hand, I noticed the other day, I see a bunch of children on the streets. So that tells me, hey, we're not done as a community, and that's good news.
Thank you very much for spending your time with us and sharing your memories with us.
You're more than welcome. And pleasure.
Thank you, Jon. And thank you for watching.